Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Hey, what's up, Post family? So, I am about to be doing a podcast interview, so I thought I'd let you guys eavesdrop on this little session. It's with the Becoming Unstoppable podcast. I think Hilda is the host, and she is, I think, doing a summit of some sort, but she asked me if I wanted to participate. I said yes, so we're going to be doing a Zoom conference here shortly, and thought I'd just give you guys access if you're interested. And if you think it's good information, of course, share it with your friends and family. And we broke 40,000. How cool is that? Happy Manic Monday to everyone. It was a busy weekend for Big Pop as usual. I hope you guys had a good weekend as well. And I hope you have a good week, a big week planned ahead. Also, I'm going to be doing another podcast interview at 10 o'clock. That's Pacific Standard Time. So, and then I got to get on the road for a couple of hours. So there you have it. It starts at 9, so I got a few minutes. Hello, Tracy from New Jersey. So I'm just going to be streaming this live because I'll be talking to Hilda on the videos. So just so you know, I won't be answering questions. This will just be something for you guys to listen in for. I'm going to drop this down a little. Listen in to. Hello, Carrie James. Okay. I think I'm going to cut my email off. Looks like it's going to be another sunshiny day here in Crescent City, California. It was a rainy afternoon. Hey, there's Hilda. Let me start my video.
Off. Can't hear you yet.
Hey, how are you? How's that?
Hi, how are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. And you?
I'm doing great too.
Good.
Thank you so much for asking.
Good.
Are you still in the Oakland area?
No, I'm back in Crescent City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Is that your permanent home?
Well, permanent home is in Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
kind of temporary point of relocation is Crescent City.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit all over the place.
I am all over the place. Yeah.
That's nice. Nice. Gives you a little bit of a change of scenery, huh?
It does. I get to mix it up. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. We've been having a change of scenery, but not because I've gone anywhere, but because of the rain and the weather's been just so.
Yeah. Now where are you based out of, Hilda?
I'm based off of San Diego, California.
Okay, San Diego. Cool.
Yeah. So Southern California, and typically we have very nice weather where it's not too cold and usually very sunny, even though it's December. But I would say since last year till this winter, now it's been actually those rainy, cold seasons that we are not used to. So
Yeah.
we're getting some variation in weather for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much again for joining us on this series. I am really, really appreciative because I really wanted to get people with various backgrounds who can really speak about what you're doing and give the audience different approaches to not be stuck in fear, and really, whether it's go seek out different modalities, but really, really inspire them to make a mind shift for 2020 to really work on their emotional well-being and their mental well-being, not just their physical well-being, right? And a lot of that comes, a lot of the times and you probably can definitely speak upon this with your practice, is that just people are just too fearful to just take that step.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They get conditioned and trapped into these patterns, into the comfort zone, and then they don't. And so that's where I wanted to give, like I said, this audience just little boosts going into the new year, to really think about what their New Year's resolutions are going to be, and maybe possibly make it something different than what they've done before. Now, I know that you have the book, From Fear to Love. This is entirely up to you, whatever you would like to talk about, and then just as long as you wrap it into the topic of fear. Would you like the interview to be based off of that? Would you like it? I like it to be a little bit more like natural, whatever comes up. My first question is what you do at the Post+Institute, what you see. And then from there, of course, it always gives me a segue to my next question, which will be something a little bit about what are some of the fears that you encounter in your practice. But did you want to bring forth to light the work in the book? That's entirely up to you.
No, I'm completely okay with just going with the flow of whatever you want the focus to be, and we'll just go with it. It doesn't need to be built around the book. I talk about the book all the time. I don't need to talk about the book today.
Okay, are you sure? Because it's
100%. Yeah, if it comes up, it's fine. Otherwise, no, it's no big deal.
Okay. In your introduction, I will introduce it because that you're an author of From Fear to Love.
Sure.
But yeah, okay. So then we could just go natural on wherever the conversation goes. The interview will be about 20 to 25 minutes. So it's 9:02 right now on my end. So we'll be stopping in 25 minutes or so. Just so you know, the last question that I will ask is, I got inspired by Oprah and how she always asks, whenever she interviews anybody, she always asks, if you could go back to when you were the young you, 20-year-old you, and you can offer any advice, what would it be? So my little twist would be like, if you could go back to a time in your life when you were really fearful about making a change in your whether it be in your career, whether it be in your life, what advice would you give yourself then?
Sure,
so that's just the last question of how I tie it back all around. And then, of course, you can let us know where, even though you'll have all the information, the audience will have all the information of where they can find you. I still like to ask, so you can plug your self and where they can find you, the work that you do. Because like I said, this is what I hope. I hope that the audience that we reach, if they resonated with you, they contact you and they go and just get services.
Sure.
Just go and make some changes.
Yeah,
good?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Do you have any questions for me before we get started?
No, ma'am. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Perfect. All right. So I'll give a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then I'll start the recording.
Okay.
All right. Very good. So 3, 2, 1, and welcome to another episode of Become Unstoppable, effective strategies for creating freedom from fear, fulfillment, and success in your life. I'm your host, Hilda Delatorre, therapist and empowerment coach. And today I have the honor of interviewing a gentleman who's very inspirational in his work, Bryan+Post. Brian is the founder of the Post+Institute and the author of From Fear to Love. Welcome, Brian.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, Hilda. I'm doing fantastic. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. We're very glad to have you here and joining us for us this morning, for the viewers at various times of the day. Yeah. Brian, why don't you share with the audience a little bit about the Post+Institute and what you do and create there?
So the Post+Institute was actually founded by my partner and I almost 20 years ago, actually, to be a source of education support and hope for adoptive and foster families and families who struggle with children who have behavior issues associated with trauma, so multiple diagnoses and things like that. And so we just created a portal for education resources and a place for people to find support and help when they felt like nothing else was going to work or had worked. We wanted to be that final support place to really give people hope. So that's what we did.
Beautiful, beautiful. So then the clienteles that you work with are parents that have adopted children and are at a loss in how to work with them. Tell me a little bit more. We've
actually, over a 20-year span, have probably worked with about every population, from small kids to 89-year-olds, women who want to deal with anger and fear that they hadn't dealt with before in their lives. And so in between that are families, and usually families who have been in the mental health system on average 7 years. Their kids on average have 5 to 7 different diagnoses. On average, their kids are on 3 to 5 different medications before they get to us. And so it can be adopted children, because I was adopted, so that's kind of my passion and area of expertise and focus. But a lot of times it's foster children, biological children with trauma histories. Probably the common theme with all of them is that they've all experienced trauma on some level. And usually it's a level that they're not even aware of. And we just help bring that to a more conscious level and help them gain more control over it.
Right, right. I'm so glad that you mentioned that a lot of the times it's a trauma that people are not even aware of, because when we think of trauma, we think of these huge, horrific experiences and think that's what trauma is, and that didn't happen to me, so then I must not have experienced a traumatic experience. But I have found that trauma is not necessarily the event, it's the response to the event. And that a lot of the times holds a person in fear, right?
Well, actually, that's you're absolutely right. Trauma is defined as any stressful event. So that's why it's not always the event, because it could be any stressful event that's prolonged, overwhelming, or unpredictable. And when we don't have an opportunity to express, process, and understand, that's the difference between a short-term stressful event versus a potentially lifelong, life-altering event. And, people in the trauma community talk about people's responses to the traumatic event. And a lot of times that response that's required is the ability to be able to express, process, and understand, because that gives you some control over the event and how it happened. And when you don't get that opportunity, it can get buried in your cellular system, in your body-mind system, and affect you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the component that people are not very conscious of, right?
Yeah, not conscious at all. And in fact, I would say even probably more than just not conscious of it, it is at some level denial that it has even occurred. Even parents, because I work a lot with parents, I always start with the adults, with the parents. So even parents who know they've experienced painful things don't like to talk about those things and don't like to look at them. Just the other day, I had the opportunity to sit down with a woman. She's in her 40s, and she had experienced significant early childhood trauma. And up until I asked her the question, had she experienced any physical or sexual abuse in her life, she had only told one other person who was a therapist she's been seeing for a long time. And so it was not even a question she was prepared to really have asked or even to look at.
Wow. Yeah, not sharing that with anybody in their life. How much are they holding, retaining in just that, right?
Well, and it's in addition to how much they're holding and retaining, but how much it's literally impacting every relationship that they're in. You know, that is how we allow our experiences to control our lives, as opposed to us having control over our experiences. When we are unable and unwilling, and usually it's only because of fear. This is what we don't realize, is that it is only fear that keeps you from any level of emotional freedom that you want to engage in. And that fear, the reason that fear feels so big is because that fear is attached, that emotion of fear, because I say there are only two primary emotions, love and fear. That emotion of fear is attached with it to an experience. And that experience has a vibration. And it is the fear of that past experience that keeps us held hostage. And it's not going to impact us. Like, that thing's not going to come back today. It's not going to come back tomorrow. It just lives in the past. And we have such a fear of confronting it and looking at it and working through it that we allow it to affect every decision, every relationship. And I see it in families all the time. I see it with parents all the time, but I see it in individuals.
Yes, definitely. You know, you're hitting on some points that I actually find in my practice as well, is that a lot of people just do not come in for help just out of the fear of not revisiting that event.
Yes.
Right? Thinking that it's gonna create the same emotion it created when the event was experienced. How do you approach that?
So the thing we have to understand is that we are living the fear already. The fear of feeling it. We're already feeling it. The fear of re-experiencing it. We're already experiencing it. And we hide behind the false illusion that by not talking about it, by not looking at it, that it's like, it's not going to happen again, or it doesn't exist. But the energy and the vibration shows up all the time. And so one of the ways in which I am probably the most proficient in helping people look at their fearful experiences is because I am not afraid myself. And when I am afraid, I am aware of it. So I've learned to be really mindful of my own fear and my own overwhelm, which gives me a perspective when I'm talking to people about theirs. And then kind of that, it's almost a conditioned courage over a period of years when I can talk to someone about their fear and the fears that they have and the things they've experienced, and hold them in a space of security that says you are going to be okay. And I understand that up until this point, maybe you've not felt like you could talk about this. Maybe you've not felt that you could share this because you've not had anyone to be able to hold you. But I can hold you. There's no emotion bigger than what my window of tolerance for you is going to be able to permit. And so giving them that level of security and certainty has helped me and helped others feel comfortable enough to move into their pain in really rapid, quick periods of time.
Right. You know, you brought up a great point that a lot of people are afraid of confronting the fear, but they are holding the fear on their day-to-day lives.
You're
right?
already
It's
living
just
it.
coming out in various ways, but it is affecting them positively or negatively because they're holding it, right?
Yes.
And so I can see how having a space where they can finally let that out would be so beneficial. Right?
Well, and then there's the you know, that's kind of multifaceted in that one, people have to have someone who can explore with them what trauma actually has even been in their lives. So there's the whole experience, which I believe the most common form of trauma is emotional absence and parental depression. You got parents who work, they come home, they feed you, they put you to bed, and you get up and you do it over and over and over again. But there's no abuse, there's no neglect. It's just that they're stressed out parents doing the best they can, and there's no emotional connection. Well, emotional absence is the same physiology as stress. So if you live with stressed out parents, you're experiencing stress all the time. And that impacts our emotionality. And then there's the in utero experience of trauma and of stress that we really don't look at. When you ask someone, where were your mom and dad when you were in the womb? What do you know about your birth? What do you know about your first 3 years of life? And just to generalize, most people don't ever really think about that, talk about that. I talked to a mom and a dad the other day. They're in their 70s. This mom had raised her siblings from the time she was 9 years old. The dad remembers raising his brothers from the time he was 6. He said at 6 years old, we were getting on buses and taking the bus around Oakland with his little 3-year-old and 2-year-old brother. So that is an emotional level of trauma that people don't understand how that shows up. And it very clearly shows up in their marriage now. And so, helping people understand what are those emotional experiences you've had in your life that create those emotional barriers, number one. And then number two, giving you an opportunity to actually go into the experience and feel the experience. See, Sheldon Kopp is a psychotherapist. He's dead now. He wrote a book called If You See the Buddha in the Road, Kill Him. Long time, it's a really good book. And psychotherapy guru. He always said, before you can get out of something, you have to be willing to get into it. So we have these experiences that grab us throughout our lives, and we want to move away from them, but they hang on to us. Stephen Covey said, upset feelings never die. They are buried alive and come back as something uglier. Well, people don't realize that getting through a trauma or getting through a fear barrier, really, at the end of the day, in the most simplest form, is just a matter of breathing into it, thinking about it, and then honoring the feeling associated with it. That's really all it is. When you honor the feeling associated with the experience and you feel that feeling and you allow yourself, the Greek meaning of the word honor is to assign value no greater and no less than what was deserved. So whatever that experience was, and I say to an adult now, let's say you experienced some loss. You lost your mom when you were 8 years old, and then, you had to be responsible for your brothers and sisters. So you never had an opportunity to grieve the loss of your mom. And now you're 60 years old. Well, what do you do about that? Well, let's just start by closing your eyes, breathing in, inhaling, exhaling, put your hands on your chest. Think about when you were 8 years old and you lost your mom. And let's just start right there. And now let's start to feel that. What did that feel like? Let's think about what was going on. The sadness starts to come up. Now give into that sadness. Give me a little bit more of that. Go deeper. Allow yourself to go a little bit deeper. Express it a little bit more, a little bit louder. And they start going through this process. Allow yourself to grieve. Allow yourself to let go. Let go of that grief that 8-year-old has been hanging on to for your entire life. Let go of that grief. Let it go. Let it go. And they start to release that. And I went through a process similar to that with a mom recently, and this is the 70-year-old mom. And once we got finished, she sat next to her husband and she said, I feel like I've been healed just by going in and relieving some of that emotional stress pressure. And I told her, well, I don't know about being healed. We've just scraped the surface. There's so much deeper. There's so much further we can go. But people feel that kind of upliftment. They feel that kind of hope and inspiration just by finally having an opportunity to let go of whatever that trauma, whatever that experience is that's been holding on to you all your life. Turn around and face that thing and put sound to it, put emotion to it, and that's how you release that grasp. And when you release the grasp of that pain, that energy has to dissipate. It has to dissipate. It's just energy. The significance is that emotion is just energy. And once you honor the energy has to dissipate. It's not going to hang on.
Right. But you have to feel that energy first.
You gotta feel it. And the thing is because it's conditioned, it's literally conditioned in our cells and potentially even in our DNA, it will come back. It comes back because of conditioning. If you will allow yourself to continue to release, to continue to be mindful, continue to be aware in the presence of that grasping on, it will loosen, eat faster and faster and faster, and pretty soon it stops coming back. Pretty soon it's just like a little acknowledgement. Maybe it says, hey, and you just acknowledge it and it goes away.
Right. Definitely. Let me bring back this question to what you said in the beginning when you mentioned of how you work with your clients. Typically, you work with the parents first. Now, I know the purpose of that, but can you share with the audience, why would you work with the parents first?
So in our society, we like to focus on behaviors. And unfortunately, those behaviors always end up being focused from as the child. The child is always the focus of attention. So the child is the one who gets the diagnosis, gets the medication, And so when families, and mental health professionals, I believe, foster this, when families go to a counselor for help, the counselor tends to bring the child away from the family into the office. Well, I believe that healing happens in the home. And I believe the responsibility, by and large, falls upon the adults that surround the child, not upon the child themselves. And we have to be willing to go through and look at our own stuff, our own issues, our own pains, our own traumas, and we have to be willing to heal our own selves before we can create the environment for our children to work through their pain. Because I believe fundamentally that children's behaviors is just a manifestation of their trauma. So when a child is misbehaving, it's not something to be labeled. It's not something to be diagnosed. It's something for mindful and enlightened adults to understand, to see, and to be able to respond in a loving way that allows that child in that moment to work through that behavior and decide that they don't have to hold on to that behavior anymore because it is resolving that trauma in their brain. And so the reason I always work with parents is because they set the platform and the foundation for healing for the family.
Right on. That's exactly what I wanted you to share, just because I know that a lot of the times I have encountered parents that want the help for their children, and that's great. And of course, we'll work with the child. However, I always say, what about yourself?
Yeah, and I want to say something. I'm going to say this really quick, Hilda, but I believe it probably deserves a lot more time. Yeah. When a child is misbehaving, that child is sending off a vibration. That vibration triggers the parent's own brain stem. It matches a vibration that is stored in the parent's brain stem, which is connected to the rest of their body. That is the core of reactivity. So the parent becomes reactive to the vibration they're receiving from the child. When the parent becomes reactive to the vibration they're sending from the child that's coming from the child's own trauma-based, fear-based vibration, when the parent becomes reactive, they're sending a negative vibration back to the child, which intensifies the child's pre-existing vibration. That's a negative feedback loop. In order to help a child heal through trauma, a parent has to first stop allowing that vibration to increase their own negative vibration. They can only do that if they come to an understanding of what it is about that vibration coming from their child that is increasing their negative vibration to begin with. And that's why they have to deal with their own stuff. The reason parents have to look at their own stuff is because they are the portal through which their child's trauma is going to get funneled. It is going to get it's going to be directed through the portal of the parent. If that vibration comes through the parent and the parent deciphers that vibration as negative, as fearful, as stressful, then that's what they're going to send back to the child. If that child's vibration comes to that parent and that parent is able to funnel that vibration, to screen that vibration, to look at it, to understand it, to not become overwhelmed by it, to breathe through it, turn on oxytocin, and then they send back a positive vibration. A negative vibration cannot grow in the presence of a positive vibration. It is a physiologic impossibility. It's quantum physics. As long as that positive vibration exists, that negative vibration can't grow. And over time, it has to diminish and dissipate. We have that power as adults, not just as parents, but as adults. We have that power over every aspect of our lives when we're interacting and we're in relationship with other people, because that's all we're doing. We're all the time, we're just exchanging vibrations. The more mindful, the more aware, and the more willing we are to take responsibility for our own vibration, what we emit back, the more power we have in changing and controlling our lives.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Really, really beautifully said, and so insightful. And I really, really hope that our audience really tuned into that, because that message is very powerful. Now, I'm going to wrap this up, and I want to ask you, obviously, you've created a great foundation for families. You've got a great space for them to come and get some healing done. Now, I'm pretty sure with your life experience, you've experienced fear here and there at the various times in your life. Looking back with everything that you have already gone through and learned, if you could go back and speak to the younger Brian that at one point was very fearful of making a decision, whatever that decision may be, what would you advise him?
So I was born in fear. So my entire life, I'm still highly fearful. I'm very stress sensitive. And so if I was to go back to a younger Brian, I would just say to him, you are okay. You are safe. You're not gonna die. Breathe, calm down, and focus. That's what I'd say.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you so very much, Brian.
Thank you, Hilda.
Where can people hear more from the great work that you do? Share with our audience where they can reach you.
So every day on Facebook at the Post+Institute, I do a daily show called Post Daily Dose, 5 days a week. I call it the greatest 10-minute parenting show on the planet, although I usually go over 10 minutes. So they can follow us on Facebook at the Post+Institute, and then postinstitute.com is our main website where they can follow us too. I'm also on Instagram, Post Parenting and Brian+Post 32.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so very much, Brian.
You're welcome.
This was super inspirational.
You're welcome.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, audience, for tuning in, and see you guys on the next one. Bye. Beautiful, Brian. Gosh, I wish I had more time. Okay. I really, really enjoyed this conversation, because I really want, this is exactly what I was wanting to create for this audience, a space where they can really be educated in really how important it is to work with their own fears, what fears does, especially in parenting. You know, yeah. I actually, in the agency that I currently still work at, we work with a lot of primarily children, families and children, developmental delayed children, autistic, and that's where I find that a lot of times they bring me the children and they're like, here, you know, fix the problem. Sure. I'll be in the waiting room. Sure. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were able to provide that for any of the parents that might be listening that want to, you know, either get resources for their children or now inspire them to get resources for themselves, because
Fantastic.
it is a negative feedback loop that they encounter if they do not.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. The series is actually launching this Wednesday, so I'm actually going to send out an email for all the speakers to have, and then you can already start to promote. Your interview is gonna be featured, I believe, next week. I'll give you exactly what date, because I have to edit it and put it together with your bio. Did you get a chance to get on the?
I've still not received that link. I looked in my spam, and I still.
Did you?
Yeah, I still haven't gotten it.
Okay, let me connect with them with the software again, and I'll try to send that out again, because I had put that it got resent. But let me see, maybe I might have put some letter wrong or something.
Okay.
And let me look into it. That way you can upload your bio and your pic, and then we could connect it with the interview.
Okay, fantastic.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thanks,
I'll be
Hilda.
in touch.
Okay,
Have yourself
sounds
a wonderful
good.
rest
All
of
right.
your day.
Take care.
Beautiful.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye. All right, gang. Hey, thanks for joining in. Hope you got something out of that. Joni says, you can't give from a broken plate. That's absolutely true. All right, I'm going to meet with Kyle here and get on with our Monday. Go rock and roll, guys. Talk to you soon.